Hello, I'm Professor Chesterfield Featherbottom. Here in merry old England, there are love stories aplenty. Romantic, platonic, love of God and of country. Like many other amorous tales, the story we're about to tell you became life-changing for both parties. It's about paint, persistence, passion, and it's all inspired by a fuzzy-haired TV painter from back in the States. You may have heard of him.
Hey, welcome back. Certainly glad you could join us today. I thought today we'd do a little seascape, one that's real easy, and I believe you're going to enjoy it.
Today, on The Joy of Bob Ross, a love letter to the power of artistic freedom, here in the land of the rose. It's a story better told with the help of our very own senior correspondent, Ron Boom Boom Scalzo.
Thank you, Chet. I'm here in the sunniest part of England to introduce you to an artist.
Can I say a huge hello to the wonderful Paul? How are you, Paul?
I'm very well, my darling, thank you.
We've both got a little bit of a brew on tonight, haven't we?
Something like that.
We certainly.
Style, and that means we've got a fantastic guest with us. I've already got my sleeves rolled up, Paul.
Ready to go?
I'm ready to go because I'm going to be painting along with you.
You are.
You're quite right, it worked.
It worked,
I did a
didn't it?
cloud.
This is my friend Paul.
Meet Paul Ranson, painter, YouTuber, Brit. Paul fell in love about a quarter century ago. First with his partner Terry.
We met on a blind date and we clicked and we quickly kind of became a couple. You find your lives kind of intertwining and then you kind of find commonality and then you realize that there are things about each other that you didn't know, that suddenly Terry had always harbored this sort of want to do art, but she had always been stopped. When she was young, she was always told, well, you've not really got much artistic talent. With just one or two unkind words, you can crush that person's spirit. And that's what happened to Terry. She was given like a bunch of beans to stick on a piece of paper, make a pattern out of these beans, but the pencils and the paint, that's not for you.
But there was one place Terry could always go for artistic encouragement.
That's what makes this style of painting so unique and so wonderful, is that anybody can do it. You don't have to be blessed by Michelangelo at birth. You can create a beautiful painting. Yeah, you can do it.
Bob used to turn up at about 11:30 at night, and he was just a joy to watch. It used to come up as the joy of pain because the TING bit was clipped on the schedule, so it kept coming up as the joy of pain at 11:30. I kind of, I thought, this may be not for me, but one day I clicked on the joy of pain by mistake, and there was this crazy mop-headed guy just painting.
Nothing hurts here, no pain. Nobody's unhappy. It's a pleasant place. Everything's nice here.
I sat and watched Bob that half hour. The following night, his show was on again. I think like most other people, I just sat there spellbound. How could he do this so quickly?
But as enwrapped as Paul was, it was Terry who first decided she wanted to give Bob's wet-on-wet technique a try.
I made my way to the local art shop and I bought her a box of oil paints. That was her Christmas present, and she was thrilled. And she would just sit and paint these beautiful little miniatures. They were little postcard-sized versions of Bob, because she had to copy it off the TV. She used to videotape the show, and then watch it back over. There's no books, no instructions, nothing to follow. So she would just literally watch Bob for a minute, and then she would try painting stuff. She would show them to me, these amazing little paintings, and they were jeweled. They were little... so perfect. And I thought, wow, she's really doing well with it. And then she told me she didn't have a palette knife and she'd been using sort of a back of a spoon or something. And so I made her one out of a little plastic plant pot label and she's painted with that. And then one day she said to me, you'd have a try.
One day, while painting her little mini Bobs, Terry turns to Paul, reading his newspaper. Terry says, I want someone to teach me this in person. Paul looks down at his paper.
On the page was a quarter-page advert for a certified Ross instructor who lived 20 minutes from us. And she was having an open day in a local church hall. And as she's telling me this piece of information, I'm reading the advert. And it was just like that kind of spooky moment when two things just kind of collide. And I said, so you need to go and see an instructor like this person? And her eyes widened. She said, oh my. I said, well, it's this Sunday. Whatever we're doing, it's cancelled, and you're going painting.
Paul takes Terry to the painting class. They meet a man there who thinks that Terry could become an instructor. But for that, she has to travel to Holland. And she's not going without Paul.
The people in Holland are just the kindest people. And they love England and they love the Brits.
The Bob Ross International Certification class is a veritable melting pot. France is here, Sweden and Switzerland, and Germany too.
And Bob was the common language. We were all there because we were Bob fans.
I get letters every day, as I say, from people all over the world, fantastic friends. And they tell me they never believed they could paint. And they're doing paintings now that friends and relatives absolutely don't believe.
And we came away from there so full of beans. The drive home in the car was just non-stop chatter. What had started out as just a week-long adventure was now slowly crystallizing into the idea that maybe we should be teaching classes. What we decided to do was, as soon as we got through our teacher training, that we would try and run some classes, but to generate some interest on the South Coast. We would finish work on a Friday. We would drive down overnight. The following day, we would either be doing craft shows for a weekend to generate the interest. And then Sunday night, we would pack the car up and drive back to London. And we did this for 18 months.
It takes a year and a half of long drives and hard work for Paul and Terry to start their business. They pack up their stuff and leave London willingly for a quieter life on the water.
My heart has always been on the coast. I love the sea. Terry, she's originally from Portsmouth, which is a naval port. We moved south to the coast, and we've been here ever since. So that was 2003, so we're just over 20 years now.
But these little details, this is what really makes your seascape special.
Bob had that unique style that you've probably seen and millions and millions of other people have seen, and it's belief.
If you believe strong enough and you're willing to practice, you can do it.
Bob taught you to believe in yourself. It's more than just painting sometimes, and that's what I've come to understand over the years. Bob was sort of teaching more about life, really, that never let anything hold you back. If you pick up a brush, suddenly everybody's the same. And it was that discovery that you were amongst kindred spirits, that you were in a group of people that were all seeking that joy of painting that Bob put forward through his program.
You'll be absolutely amazed at the effects you can achieve. And you can do it. You can do anything that you believe you can do.
The road to become a Bob Ross instructor can be long, sometimes treacherous, but the sacrifices made often transform into inspirational rewards.
We were all there for the right reason. I think if it had been sort of just down the road, it may not have had quite that same importance to us all. And that's what I think was the other key factor. We all had to work to be there. Some of the best teachers weren't the best painters. And some of the really great painters struggled to teach. But little by little, we helped each other. It's a bit like don't leave anybody on the beach. And that's what it was all about, getting there together.
Paul and Terry make a choice to move their lives to the coast. But where are they going to teach? West Sussex ain't exactly bustling with activity. And there's no Google around this time. In fact, there's barely an internet at all.
And we would drive around little villages looking for halls, village halls, anything, anywhere we could stand to teach a class. And we had drawn a blank. We had spent all day driving around villages and town. We went everywhere. And eventually we drove through this little village. We sort of stopped to ask some directions, and we asked this very nice chap if he knew the way to the village hall. And he said, I'm going there myself. It's just around the corner, and so just park your car in the car park. He said, and I'll let you in and you can look at the hall. And he said, well, I'm in charge of the hall. So we got to know him, and his name was Barry Ross. And we thought, where have I heard the name Ross before?
Hello, I'm Bob Ross, and I'd like to welcome you to the 28th Joy of Painting series.
What are the chances? 1 in a million. And he let us in, and he turned out to be a fan of Bob Ross. The hall was amazing and fantastic, and we taught many, many happy classes there for many years.
When a man named Barry Ross literally opens a door that creates space for you to teach your painting classes, how can you not feel that Bob Ross wind blowing?
When I'm doing anything to do with Bob Ross, I never feel like I'm alone. I always feel the Bob is in the room, And even very stressful situations. Well, the first person I think is, what would my dad do? I think, no, I can't do that. But what would Bob do?
What you see is what you should capture on canvas. Gonna lift up. Once again, want to make us look like little trees, live far away. But do this in layers, paint in layers.
I kind of think, Bob's about. He's been with me all the time. And Terry, we often say, you know what? Thank God Bob was doing this, because I don't think I could have stuck the job I had, and neither could she. It was buy a sports car, a mistress, or Bob Ross.
I think you made the right choice.
I couldn't afford the sports car, and I'm too faithful to Terry, so it had to be Bob Ross.
Paul Ranson's no spring chicken, but he's recently become tech savvy and takes his teaching knowledge to the web.
Because you kind of spent 20 years learning a subject inside out. And I thought maybe I should video some stuff. And maybe this is the right time to learn. I had my ancient cell phone. I had a 7-year-old laptop and not a clue how to do any of it. Not a clue. And I said to Terry, I think the only thing I could do is to build a computer. And she said, but you don't know how to build a computer. I said, no, I didn't know how to paint once, and I could do that now. So let's build a computer. But I just taught myself how to film and edit stuff. And it became almost as enjoyable as painting.
Paul had never heard of YouTube until about 5 years ago. Never used it. Now his channel contains nearly 200 Paul-made painting tutorials, viewed by nearly 20,000 subscribers and hundreds of thousands of web surfers.
I'm using Bob Ross landscape paints, and in particular I'm using Bob Ross Liquid Clear, and this is just to get the canvas nice and slick.
It's Paul's full-time thing now, though he swears to me he'll return to face-to-face teaching again someday.
I do miss meeting people. I miss that fun. But now I have a whole new family internationally, and that is priceless. I paint every day, all the time. Even if it's not with a brush in my hand, up here, I'm painting all the time. I remember in an interview I was reading, somebody asked Bob how many times he would practice a painting before it went on the show. And I seem to remember him saying something like, I paint it 12 times before the show ever gets to air. He said, I might paint it 3 or 4 times on canvas, but in my mind, I've painted it dozens of times. And that's the same thing. I'm continuously thinking about the process of painting and then trying to get that across so other people can understand it.
I say over and over again, and I'm very sincere about it, painting should make you happy. It should just make your heart full of joy.
When Bob Ross was making majestic mountains and happy trees for us on public television, we could only sit back and watch. We couldn't leave a kind word on a webpage, like his videos, or even troll his hairstyle.
This little devil was fascinated with my hair.
Today, we live in a world of non-stop interaction and instant feedback. Sometimes that can be a curse, but other times it can be a blessing. Here's a story about a happy little streamer who suffered a tremendous loss and took to the web to heal his soul, to do some good, and to change lives. And through all this, he soon discovered the joy of Bob Ross.
Maggie makes so much possible, man. Like, I would have never in a million years thought I would be on a Bob Ross podcast talking about Maggie's story. And like, for me, the coolest part is getting to tell her story and like our story alongside it. Even if 10 other people hear about this, or 100 other people, or 1,000 other people hear about this, and it can help them with their own grief, it's done its job, man. So my name is Mike Carenti, and I'm a Twitch streamer. You know, for me, family is absolutely number one. And I feel like when I was streaming, like basically full time, it was impacting, you know, at home too. So
Mike commits to streaming 2 nights per week. And whether gaming, opening packs of Pokemon cards, or just shooting the breeze, his sneaky beagle alter ego starts to build a fan base on Twitch.
There's nothing like it, man. When the vibes are flowing and the chat is moving, you know, it captures that feeling in a bottle for me. And that's why I fell in love with Twitch and streaming. I don't know, man. I just get to be a goofball, and I get to be who I am unapologetically, be me, you know? Bro, it's just so funny, man. It's just so funny, dude.
But for all the fun Sneaky Beagle is having on Twitch, the reason he's here talking to us is because of something far more serious. Something hard and heavy.
When we lost our daughter, it was December 8th, 2016. Her name's Maggie Sophia. My wife and I took a couple weeks, and we were grieving, obviously, insanely heavily, right? No parent in the world should have to bury their child. We sat there and talked, and I said to Jess, I'm like, you know, I'd like to do something to be able to parent her, even though we'll never be able to like physically parent her. I'd like to be able to parent her like we parent our kids, right? In some ways. And the way that we found to do that is by giving back. That's how we've decided to continue to connect with her and show her that she's meaningful and important in our lives, right? She was born still at 22 weeks. She was less than a pound when she was born, but we held her. We had 10 hours with her in the hospital, and it's not enough, man. You know, the last time you're ever going to see your daughter is that 10 hours.
In the first couple years after Maggie leaves this earth, Mike and his wife Jess start on their path to giving back. They organize a fundraising dinner, then an annual disc golf tournament in their Baltimore community to raise money and awareness in Maggie's name.
Pandemic happens. We can't host the tournament for year 3. Everyone has to just pick up their players packs, and like these events would sell out in legitimately 24 to 48 hours. And there would be 150 players and, 200 plus people at this tournament, right? Just spectators. And it was a big event, man. It was phenomenal. I built my first PC. I was playing Rocket League, which is like a car soccer game. And I was like, the guys that I watch on YouTube, they stream on Twitch sometimes. Like, I could probably stream on Twitch. Why not? Right? Because it's really important to me to raise money for the rest of my life in Maggie's name, right? In Maggie's honor. And so I did my first charity stream, but I had a viewing audience of like 10, dude. So at the time, I'm like, $1,000 would be insane if we did that. But I told my story about losing Maggie and, how important it was to us. And we raised like $4,000 that first year.
And to incentivize folks to donate to his first ever Maggie's Memorial charity stream, Sneaky Beagle calls upon a familiar face on Twitch.
Just think about a little stream bubbling along here and playing, though. All kinds of little things.
Fun fact, I watch him to go to bed every time it's live.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. Trust me.
I love that stream, man. It is like it's a joy. So I did my first Bob Ross painting stream, the first charity stream, because I was like, hey, this would be kind of funny to see how bad I am at painting, because I literally had never painted before in my entire life. I mean, okay, like elementary school, everyone paints at some point, right? High school, yeah, but never like
voluntarily
paint. Yeah, voluntarily, exactly. My first charity stream, I just said, hey, if we raise X amount, I'll do a Bob Ross painting like live. And it was really funny. Actually, it's almost my most viewed clip now at this point. He put contact paper on and I didn't even know what contact paper was, at the time. I had never even heard the term in my life, right? So it must have just gone over my head in the beginning of the painting.
This is a double prime pre-stretched canvas. We don't recommend canvas boards. And onto that, I've put a piece of contact paper with an oval cut out of it. And that's basically all we've done. Just covered this with liquid white and it's ready to go. So let's go.
We get 2.5, 3 hours into this painting and he goes, I'm going to just remove the contact paper here. And he pulls it off and I'm like, I turn around, my head snaps around like immediately, like,
I tell you what, let's pull the contact paper off and see what we got here.
Contact paper.
As I mentioned earlier.
So I've got this stupid blob in the middle of my canvas with nothing to pull off. So he's got these really beautiful shell border with a, sunset and palm trees with the shell border. And I've got this blob in the middle of my canvas. And I'm like, man, Bob really got me, dude.
And when you peel it off, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
And it became this meme of like, Beagle doesn't pay attention to anything, and everyone in the chat, dude, noticed. Everyone noticed except me. And I read a couple times, like, as I'm painting, they're like, when's he going to notice? And I'm like, when am I going to notice what?
You
Like,
didn't even
as
know
I'm painting this painting, they're all in on it. Like, they loved it.
That's because, just like Bob, Mike leans into his happy accidents, turns them into on-screen magic.
But I had such a fun time on that stream. I was actually kind of proud, even though it was very bad. I was proud of what I had produced. It kind of like struck a chord with me as like, hey, this is going to be something that's actually fun to do again. So I had all the wrong stuff the first time. And then I just said, if I'm going to do this again, for me, it's all about how can I put out the best quality product? Like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? I don't do anything halfway. So I started watching more Bob Ross content on YouTube. And then I found out that he had a Twitch stream. Someone was like, if you're watching him on YouTube, like, he has a Twitch stream. And I'm like, what? So I followed immediately, and I just would watch hours, right, while working. It would just be up on the monitor. I bought a Bob Ross easel, like the standing one that he uses. I bought all of the actual official Bob Ross paints, all of the Bob Ross brushes, and I said, okay, well, we're going to really have a good crack at this thing. Seeing when he was talking about blending and, all those different techniques and like the wet on wet painting techniques and stuff, that it kind of got me hooked, actually. And I said, oh yeah, baby, like, we're definitely doing this for the charity stream.
You could do it with pinks or blues or whatever makes you happy. As you heard me say a million times, painting should make you happy.
And the stuff that he would say, I mean, you know this. You obviously work.
Sure do.
With it. Like, he says stuff and it hits your soul.
It's just like life. You have to have a little sadness in your life so you know when you have a happy time. If everything was happy, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. But you have some sad times in your life, and then when you have a happy time, then you know you're having a happy time. So it makes it fantastic.
As I started watching more and more of his content, I was like, oh my God, like, I love this guy. Like, absolutely love him.
Mike's gone live on Twitch every December for the past 4 years to raise money in Maggie's name.
Year 1, 4,000-ish, right? I don't know the exact number. Second year was like 5. Year 3 was like 93. This year, 15. It's just like, it's been awesome, man.
Behind Mike on camera, a room full of pink and blue balloons. Colors that signify pregnancy and also infant loss awareness.
I want it to look perfect,
My name is Beagle Ross, not to be confused with the late Bob Ross.
His tech setup is sick. He streams for 10, 12 hours. There's music, laughter, and community.
And when we have these streams, people who were a part of the Sea of Thieves days come around to donate to that charity, right? So like that charity day is kind of like the reunion of everybody who used to hang out all the time.
Oh my God, dude. Tomato King is at $6,400. Dude, Tomato King, are you literally insane, bro? Chat, oh my God, dude. You're gonna make me cry, bro. Stop. Oh. Chat, can we get a huge 07 for all of the donors today? Even if you have $1, chat. Even if you have $1, every dollar matters. Thank you. Thank you. Huge 07s.
And once Sneaky Beagle hits a specific goal, the wig's put on, the paints come out, and a guy who never does things halfway becomes more intentional about his Bob Ross painting.
He started painting that one with the mountains and the sunset, and I was like, oh yeah, pink and blue, right? That's it, man. That's my painting, man. That's the Maggie painting, right?
And we're gonna go ahead and cover this canvas in a little bit of liquid white. Oh my God. That comes out quick. Sheesh. Oh, I don't think that's how Bob does it.
Mike and his wife Jess are just as intentional about where the money raised in Maggie's name goes.
The first thing that we did with the money was we bought a cuddle cot for the hospital. When you lose a child, you have limited time. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? And you're like, well, this is the last chance I get to be with my kid for the rest of my life. Like, no, I'm not ready. How do you say you're ready for that, right? You can't. The cuddle cot is a cooling cot, and it allows the body to stay cool and allows the family to have way more time with that lost loved one than they would otherwise have. And so it's got Maggie's name on the side of the cuddle cot, and it says, giving the families the gift of time. And like for me, like that's like something that we didn't have, you know? And so like it's cool because people have reached out and said, hey, like our daughter was in that, like, thank you. You know? You can't put a price tag on that, man. Like that is insanely valuable. And like the fact that like Maggie has improved people's lives and they're not having the same exact experience we had. Not that we had a bad experience. Like we were at Johns Hopkins. We wouldn't be raising money for Johns Hopkins if we didn't have a good experience, but it was just, we didn't have the same things available to us that we've helped other families have available to them.
That includes a private space for grieving parents to sit with their loss in a less clinical setting at Johns Hopkins, fittingly called Maggie's room.
So like, you know, that room, man, dude, to raise $15,400 this year was huge, man.
Oh, dude, today is my favorite day of the whole entire freaking year. 3 hairs and some air, chat. That's what we need. Blue Shadow with the 490. Chat, we're almost at $10,000. We're almost at $10,000, bro.
Okay, now we can come in here and really start playing. Dark sienna. We'll just go right back into there. Pull that out. A little roll of paint again. There we are. Now then, touch. Barely caress the canvas. No pressure. No pressure at all. Absolutely no pressure.
All right, wait, Bob. No
Just grab a
pressure.
little, and you get that little roll of paint. Well,
Sideshow Joe with the $500.
just create layer after layer after layer.
Sideshow Joe. That is fun, man. Bob's onto something, bro. All right, wait, Bob. I need the instruction again. I was too worried about you beating the devil out of it.
It's my day with Maggie, man. Like it's so cool. And then we sit back and like the most meaningful thing is we talk about her. The conversation is so centered around Maggie and like what she's done to change the world. And like, those are meaningful conversations, man.
On the Bob Ross podcast, we're here to have fun. I do funny voices. I talk to animals and little kids. I do all that to honor the spirit of the man this podcast is all about, and the TV painting show we all fell in love with. That's the joy part. But life is pain too. We lost Bob too soon. He was at the peak of his powers. He had more to teach us about art and about life. He would have thrived in the internet age. And let's face it, we need more Bob Rosses in our lives now more than ever. So to know that he's still in the ether, creating new paths and lifting spirits, hearing stories like Mike's that we get to share on this podcast, that's an even greater blessing. You can donate to the Johns Hopkins Children's Center in Maggie's name at Extra Life. That's extra-life.org/participant/Sneaky Beagle. The old clock on the wall tells me we've got another finished podcast episode. I want to thank my guests, Mike Carenti and Paul Ranson. This happy little episode was produced with help from James Shapiro at Jansen Media. Episode mixed by Tom Carcutt at Digital Sound and Video of Daytona Beach, Florida. You can support your local public television station and say thanks for giving us Bob Ross and the joy of painting. We want to see your paintings. Use hashtag #PaintLikeBobRoss. Bob Ross certified instructors are the only ones that know how to teach you Bob's world-famous painting method. So don't settle for second best. Find a local CRI at bobross.com and then click Take a Class. If you got your own Bob Ross story to tell, leave us a message at 866-FANBRUSH. Or you can email us at podcast@bobross.com. And follow us on Facebook at The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross. I'm Ron Scalzo. The Joy of Bob Ross is written and produced by me, Ron Scalzo, in partnership with Bob Ross, Inc. Bob Ross name and images, they're registered trademarks of Bob Ross, Inc.